Today, the Las Vegas Raiders got some breaking news, but unfortunately, this is some bad news as it appears like Ben Johnson has finalized a deal to go to the Chicago Bears. And look, to me, this is definitely a huge blow at this point. Everything seemed to indicate that we were going all in for Ben Johnson. To me, that is exactly why we got rid of general manager Tom Telesco. Even though he did a good job in this year's NFL draft, the Raiders were opening up their doors for Ben Johnson to come in here. They completely cleaned house, getting rid of Antonio Pierce, getting rid of Tom Telesco. And this was the first offseason where Tom Brady had some say-so in how the football operations were going to work here with the Raiders. And look, it definitely seemed like Tom Brady had some influence, as all the reports indicated that Ben Johnson initially was not going to take an interview with us. And everything seemed to indicate that we had a good chance to land Ben Johnson. But unfortunately, he signed with the Chicago Bears, and it looks like the biggest reason why he did so was due to the quarterback position. Look, I definitely thought it was between us and the Bears. I thought we had everything else better in terms of, we have more cap space, more draft picks. We got a clean slate for him to assemble his roster, pick his own GM. The only thing that was missing for us was that quarterback spot. And it's obvious that Ben Johnson just likes what he sees with Caleb Williams. And I think this is a situation where I think the Raiders winning those meaningless games at the end of the season, it definitely comes back to bite you, because at this point in the offseason, when you're trying to build something, it only hurts us being at number 6 overall. If we would have had a higher draft pick, maybe that could have been enough for Ben Johnson to seriously consider taking this job if he really liked one of these young prospects like a Cam Ward or a Shedeur Sanders. But at the end of the day, this was bad news. The Raiders are kind of in no man's land at this point, but at the same time, I don't think we should panic. There still are some good options out there, and we'll just have to see what the Raiders end up doing. I think with the Raiders, their thought process was correct. I like them going for a young, innovative, offensive-minded head coach. And with us not getting Ben Johnson, I think this team should continue that path. We should go for the next offensive coordinator, a guy that has good experience calling plays, and just in general, a guy who knows offensive football and knows how to develop young quarterbacks, and ultimately a guy with a modern NFL playbook. And in my opinion, I think the next guy we should seriously consider is Todd Monken. I really thought he was a good candidate from the start, and I think this would be a great plan B for the Raiders. He has had tremendous success calling plays for the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson has had his best regular seasons and back-to-back seasons under him. They have ranked in the top of the league the last 2 seasons under Monken. And just in general, he has a solid track record that goes all the way back to the 90s. And although he is older in age, I think he's around 59 years of age, he calls plays like a young, innovative offensive coordinator, very modern. He had really good success from the University of Georgia from 2020 to 2022, where he did coach Brock Bowers. So this is a guy that I think the Raiders should seriously consider, but everything seems to indicate that the plan B for the Raiders very well might be former Seattle Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll. We have already conducted an in-person interview with Pete Carroll, and just in general, Pete Carroll is a guy who has 10 winning seasons under his belt in the National Football League. In 14 years of experience with the Seahawks, he had 10 winning seasons. He is a guy that has won the Super Bowl, and he went to back-to-back Super Bowls where there was that infamous dumb play call where they threw it at the 2-yard line, and it costed the Seahawks the Super Bowl, where everybody heavily criticized Pete Carroll for not running the football with Marshawn Lynch, who was a running back that excelled in goal line situations. So when you're talking about Pete Carroll, you're talking about a guy who has a lot of experience, knows what it takes to win a Super Bowl, and has been in that stage before. But I will say there is a big question mark with Pete Carroll, and that's just his overall age. He's going to be 74 years of age, and I think a serious question mark for him could be, sure, he has a lot of experience, he's done well in the National Football League, but can you make the argument that his best years are behind him? Because I really feel like if Pete Carroll would have continued in that Seattle Seahawks head coaching position, they would have eventually fired him. The Seahawks were beginning to decline, and it just seems like out of respect for Pete Carroll, they essentially pushed him out the door respectfully. They didn't fire him or anything like that. They both came to a mutual agreement, and he continued to be in the organization with the role. But if Pete Carroll would have been stubborn and wanted to continue as a head coach, I think eventually they would have fired him. So that's my biggest concern with Pete Carroll, is I just feel like his best years very well could be behind him. And as a Raiders fan, I am just so sick and tired of getting coaches that used to be great in the past, but now they're past their prime, and now they're on the decline when they join the Raiders. So that's the biggest concern I have with Pete Carroll. And just in general, too, when it comes to the head coaching position, I would much rather prefer we get a head coach that can either call plays on the offensive side of the football or call plays consistently on the defensive side of the football, even though I would have a preference towards an offensive play caller. And Pete Carroll doesn't really fit that mold. So for me, that's why I was definitely high on Ben Johnson. I thought that was our top guy, the top target we should have gone after. We ultimately tried. I'll give Tom Brady some credit. He gave us a legit chance to seal him up, and the Raiders did everything they could, given the circumstances, to try to sign him as the new head coach, but unfortunately, he just chose a different situation, and now the Raiders are going to have to respond. What do they end up doing at the head coaching position? Do they go with an older veteran players coach type of candidate in Pete Carroll? Also, another thing to take into consideration with him being 74 years of age, I mean, you can also make the argument, how long is he going to last? Ideally, we want to get a coach that can be here for 4+ years. Now, I understand that is a long shot with this Raiders organization, but I think under Tom Brady, we all are hoping that things could change and we could finally bring some stability at the head coaching position. And I think if you bring Pete Carroll in, there is a good chance that even if he does well, he may only be able to last 3-4 seasons at max. And like I said, personally, I would like an offensive play caller like a Todd Monken. Another guy that's not really being talked about at all is Cliff Kingsbury. I would definitely consider him as the head coach. You just see what he's done in that offense with the Washington Commanders, putting up nearly 50 points in the divisional round. Now, I understand that's with a young, dynamic quarterback in Jaden Daniels, but that's where the Raiders were going to have to get aggressive at some point. We're going to have to get a young quarterback, hopefully a dual threat type of quarterback, and that's where I think you need to pair him up with an offensive-minded head coach. So with Ben Johnson being out, to me, the top guy I would go for is Todd Monken. The good thing is the Raiders have requested permission to interview him back on January 8th. But the only thing is, I haven't seen anything that has shown that he has officially interviewed with us or whether or not he has accepted that interview. So that's where things are going to be interesting. We're not even sure if Todd Monken is going to want to leave that role as offensive coordinator and ultimately become a head coach. But Raider Nation, definitely disappointing news. I guess it was just too good to be true for us. Ben Johnson will not be here, but I definitely want to get your guys' feedback in the comment section down below. With Ben Johnson being out of the picture, who do you guys think the Raiders should go after now? Let me know in that comment section down below. But with that being said, Raider Nation, anybody that is new to the channel, you guys love Raider related content just like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. That being said, I will see you guys in the next one.